Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say yes. Okay. It's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. So we're going to watch this most recent interview with Zohran Mamdani in the mainstream media. And I found this interview to be actually very entertaining because it feels like the mainstream media is finally starting to do their jobs, right? I believe Zohran went into this interview thinking that it was going to be a softball interview with no follow-ups or any pushback whatsoever. But it was the exact opposite, in my opinion. So let's not waste any time and get straight into this video. But before we do, guys, please hit the like button down below. It really helps the channel out. Let's get into it.
And joining me now is the mayor-elect of New York City, Zohran Mamdani. Mr. Mayor-elect, welcome back to Meet the Press and congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be back.
Well, it is wonderful to have you here in person, fresh off of your first meeting with President Donald Trump. He praised you. He even said you could do a great job as mayor despite months of a bitter back and forth. Were you surprised by the warm welcome that you got?
You know, I was looking forward to having the meeting with the president to speak about the needs of the 8.5 million people who call the same city we love home, and to speak, frankly, about the affordability crisis that is pushing so many of them out of those 5 boroughs. And I found in the meeting that I had with the president a productive one, and a meeting that came back again and again to the central themes of the campaign that we ran: the cost of housing, cost of childcare, the cost of groceries, the cost of utilities. And it showed that this is an opportunity to now start to deliver so that people can do more than just aspire to struggle in New York City, but actually to be able to live there.
But did you expect it to be?
I was like, that's not what she asked him. He already is giving political jargon. She did not. He avoided the question that she asked because he can't sit there and demonize Donald Trump after meeting him and having a good time. He had a good time. Be honest. You had a good time. Everybody that goes to meet Donald Trump in person ends up having a good time. Ask Bill Maher. They always have a good time. So she asked him, hey, how did you feel about his I guess, presence, and, you know, was it welcoming? So instead of answering it, which the honest answer would have probably been, he was actually pretty nice. He was actually pretty funny. And that's what he was trying to avoid saying. So he went into answering some other question that she didn't even ask, because this was going to humanize Donald Trump. He did not want to humanize Donald Trump. And I also don't think he didn't want to lie either, right? He didn't want to lie and say, oh, he was evil. He was mean. I knew he was a fascist. He treated me just like a fascist. He was so racist to me. And that's what people expect, you know, to hear when you meet Donald Trump. And he can't say that because that's not what happened. But he can't also humanize him either because he told people he was a fascist. Why would you even go? This is a betrayal to the left. The fact that he went to go meet with Donald Trump and have a cordial meeting and a negotiations with Donald Trump essentially is a betrayal to the left. They're going to look at that as, hey, you're working with the enemy. So he can't turn around and say, oh, the enemy was great. He welcomed me with open arms. He can't, even though that's what happened. I guarantee you that's what happened. Even though that's what happened, he's not going to say that. He's not going to say that.
So, chummy, what was going through your head when you were standing there?
You know, I thought again and again about what it would mean for New Yorkers if we could establish a productive relationship.
He's not going to answer that question.
That those New Yorkers stay up late at night thinking about. Because so often in our politics, we try and tell people what they should be worried about, what they should be concerned about. But when you actually ask New Yorkers and you listen to them, you hear it come back to the issues that animated not just the conversation the president and I had with the press after our meeting, but frankly in the meeting itself. It was a conversation where we spoke about the need to deliver on this agenda. And I appreciated that when the president, when we had that meeting, it wasn't just in the Oval Office. He also took me into the cabinet room. And there we were looking at portraits of presidents of years gone by.
He showed him around. He showed him around. He gave him a tour. He had a great time, guys. Zohran Mamdani had a great time. He wanted to spend the night. He wanted to spend the night. He was going to bring his PlayStation.
I had a portrait of FDR. And in many ways, when I think about the candidacy that we've put forward, it looks to Fiorello LaGuardia as the greatest mayor in New York City history. You can't tell the story of LaGuardia without telling the story of FDR and the story of a relationship with the federal government that finally delivered at the scale of the crisis it was facing.
Well, prior to your meeting, I don't have to tell you this, President Trump repeatedly threatened to cut off federal funding to New York if you won. The president seemed to back away from that yesterday, though, in his public comments in that joint news conference that you all did. He said, I don't think that's going to happen. I expect to be helping him, not hurting him. Do you believe him when he says that?
No, I believed the president in the conversation that we had, and I will continue to make the case, both to the president and to the country at large, about the needs of New Yorkers. Because what I found, frankly, is that New Yorkers have grown tired of being asked to believe in a system that has delivered very little for them. They're tired of a politics that expects everything from them while delivering little. And what they want now is a politics that can see the scale of the crisis in front of it and actually start to work together to deliver on that crisis.
You know, you ran a campaign, though, saying that President Trump had not delivered on his promise of affordability. Did anything that happened in that meeting make you think, yes, he can deliver on that promise for Americans, for New Yorkers?
Well, I spoke to the president about the fact that while our campaign technically began on October 23rd last year, for many people, they became aware of it after the president won his election. And when I went out and spoke to New Yorkers, asking them who did they vote for and why, in two neighborhoods that swung most significantly towards the president. This was Fordham Road in the Bronx, Hillside Avenue in Queens. And I shared with the president that when I asked those New Yorkers why did they vote for the president, they told me again and again it was cost of living, cost of living, cost of living. And when the president and I were speaking, we were speaking about what is preventing from delivering on that affordability agenda. Sometimes it's a lack of taking on the broken system that we have, and I spoke about in New York City, for example, zoning regulations. We spoke about ULURP. This is a process by which you either approve or deny zoning changes that are made in New York City. We spoke about the need to change so many of those situations such that a developer doesn't tell you the thing more expensive than labor or materials is waiting. And we also spoke about the importance of understanding what it is that hurts New Yorkers in their pockets. It's their rent, it's their childcare, it's their utilities, and it's their childcare. Because the childcare, I say twice, because it is the second highest cost after housing, $22,500 a year for a single child.
Well, let me ask you about the other threat that we heard from President Trump to send troops to New York City to address issues of crime and immigration. We've seen him do this in other major cities. Did you get any assurances in your meeting, Mayor-elect Mamdani, that President Trump will not send troops into New York?
I told the president that the cornerstone of an affordability agenda is public safety, and that it is critically important to me. And for all that has been said and all that has been spoken about, and the tens of millions of dollars looking to make New Yorkers fearful of that question, the truth of it is, in fact, that I'm looking forward to working with the NYPD to deliver on that. And I shared with the president that my decision to retain Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch is in large part a recognition of the fact that in her time leading the NYPD, she has driven down crime across the 5 boroughs while starting to uproot corruption that was endemic in the top echelons of that department under Mayor Adams.
And I'm going to follow up with you on your decision to keep Commissioner Tisch. But to this core question that I think so many New Yorkers are curious to know the answer to, what did President Trump say to you? Did he assure you he will not send troops into New York?
He told me that he cared deeply about public safety. I said I cared deeply about the same.
But did he say he wouldn't send troops?
What I told him is that what separates New York City from anywhere else in the country is we have the NYPD. And I trust the NYPD to deliver public safety. And to me, that is something that I know that they can do, that they have done, and they will continue to do under my leadership.
Wow. So you didn't rule it out in your meeting?
I made it very clear what we wanted to do was to deliver public safety and affordability, and the NYPD would be the ones to do so.
In that press conference with President Trump, a reporter
this.
asked you whether you believe that President Trump is in fact a fascist, a word that you've used in the past. You were about to answer, then President Trump sort of jumped in and he said, quote, "That's okay, you can just say yes. It's easier than explaining it." So, Mr. Mayor-elect, just to be very clear, do you think that President Trump is a fascist?
And after President Trump said that, I said yes. And
so you do?
And that's something that I've said in the past, I say it today, and I think what I appreciated about the conversation that I had with the president was that we were not shy about the places of disagreement about the politics that has brought us to this moment, and we also wanted to focus on what it could look like to deliver on a shared analysis of an affordability crisis for New Yorkers.
You've also said in the past that President Trump has engaged in a, quote, attack on our democracy. You've called him a despot. Do you still believe President Trump is a threat to the democracy?
Everything that I've said in the past, I continue to believe, and that's the thing that I think is important in our politics, is that we don't shy away from where we have disagreements, but we understand what it is that brings us to that table. Because I'm not coming into the Oval Office to make a point or make a stand. I'm coming in there to deliver for New Yorkers. And a few weeks ago, I was asked by a reporter 3 words to describe myself. I said, New York City. And that's what animated that conversation. How do we deliver for the people of New York City?
I think that some of your supporters would be curious to know. You say you stand by your past statements that, yes, he's a threat to the democracy. How do you square working with someone who you still think is a threat to the democracy?
I think
Exactly.
working for the people of New York City demands that you work with everyone and anyone, and that you always look to find those areas of agreement while not overlooking the places of disagreement. And I think this was something that came up in our meeting. We spoke about immigration. We spoke about the fact that in New York City, we have sanctuary city policies that allow for the city to work with the federal government on around 170 serious crimes. The concern for so many New Yorkers comes about anything beyond that. And I spoke about the importance of us being able to protect New Yorkers, and some of the incidents that we see, they do not do that.
You raised the issue of sanctuary cities, so I want to speak to you more broadly about the issue of immigration. This is one that is so critical to New York, the rest of the country as well. One of your top supporters, Senator Bernie Sanders, recently weighed in on President Trump's record managing the border. He compared it to former President Biden. I want you to take a listen to what he had to say. I'll get your reaction on the other side.
Trump did a better job. I don't like Trump, but we should have a secure border, and it ain't that hard to do. Biden didn't do it. Those before him did not do it. We should have a secure border, period.
Do you agree with Senator Bernie Sanders that President Trump has done a better job securing the border than former President Biden?
I haven't thought much about comparing presidents on the question of securing the border. I think it's important that it's secure, and I also think it's important that we have an immigration system that is humane. And that's what I spoke about with the president, is that New Yorkers want to see humanity in the policies that are being implemented.
Do you give President Trump some credit for the work that he's done to make the border, in Senator Sanders' estimation, more secure?
What I give President Trump credit for is the meeting that we had yesterday was one that was focused on how we could work together for New Yorkers. And the place that we could do so most effectively, frankly, is ensuring every New Yorker can afford the city they call home.
Yeah, so we're gonna stop it right there. That's kind of hard to listen to, right? I mean, I can only sit there and listen to word salad for so long. I start to get a headache there. But he didn't answer a single question. This is a snake oil salesman. Like I said, this is the female version or the male version of Kamala Harris and the Muslim socialist version of Gavin Newsom, right? A snake oil salesman with a whole bunch of word salad. Absolutely horrible. I can't believe people can't see right through this. Like, this guy he's not genuine whatsoever. But once again, he said all of the things that he said just to get elected. He doesn't none of these people truly believe that Donald Trump is a fascist. They don't believe he's a Nazi. They don't believe he's Hitler or all of these things that they call him. The only reason that they say these things is because it rallies their base. The only way that Democrats nowadays can win and get support from their base is if they hate Trump publicly, they display their Trump derangement, and they offer free things, right? They offer him free stuff. And that's exactly what this guy did. He ran the Democratic playbook. Scream about Donald Trump, call him Hitler and a fascist, and then offer free buses and free apartments and free groceries and all that nonsense to everybody. And you get elected. That's the campaign strategy to win as a Democrat nowadays. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about this interview here. Let's talk about it in the comment section. Leave your opinions down below. And of course, if you're brand new, consider and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.